Hola, motherfuckers. How we're going bilingual. No, no, no. Hola, todo el mundos. Hi, everybody. Welcome to season 6, episode 22 of Dualistic Unity with Jackie and Amanda. This chat was amazing, and definitely we got into the idea of success and what that can mean for you, and how that meaning changes, and exploring possibilities, and the many ways that we can get in our way, and the many reminders that we can give ourselves to not take ourselves so seriously. So hope you enjoy, and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm feeling absolutely fantastic after this chat, as I do with pretty much every conversation with Amanda. It's funny that, like, whatever I seem to be working through, we're both working through it together. And so chatting is helpful, and there's always some new insights to be found. But yeah, this was amazing conversation about success and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, not for any purpose other than just curiosity and enthusiasm to see what's out there, because existing is cool and fun, and there's so much to be experienced. So why would you spend all of your time trying to live this cookie cutter life so that other people will accept you? What do you mean, other people? It's just you. So what do you want to do? Anywho, we'll get into it. Hope you guys enjoy.
Oh my
What up,
goodness.
fuckers? We're back for another chat. And we're already feeling goofy today. We're talking about how we need to give more love to our tushies and our tootsies. Tootsies, I was just informed, mean toes and feet. And we were saying, because earlier in my yoga session with Andrew, I made him rub his feet just because, it feels good
Mhm.
to tend to the things that we've been neglecting,
Mhm.
right? There's a certain relief that comes in slowing down and paying attention to the parts that hurt a little bit and giving some time and attention to those areas, whether that's your foot or your your
Mhm.
tushy. I
Mhm.
don't really know where
Your
I could go
hands,
with that, to be honest with you. Yeah, your hands.
we
Loving your
use our hands
hands.
all the time. People barely give them massage, your neck, and not always, you know, just the whole body, because everything is connected. And what I love about muscles in general is that muscles are very team player minded. If one muscle is tense, all of the muscles around it will try to help alleviate some of that pressure and tension, but then it usually spreads the tension, after a while, if the root of that tension at that first muscle isn't addressed. But muscles are all working together and they're all connected. So it's like stretching the whole body is a good idea. And starting with the places that maybe we take for granted is a good place, because there's so many things we take for granted, and it's so easy to think that, oh, something should be there to make life easier for me, or something should just be there when I want it to be, and it's so easy to get into that mindset, and that's where we take things for granted. But then when that thing, that resource, that tool, that person is gone, then you realize, like, oh wow, I didn't really appreciate my feet. I didn't really appreciate this body that carries me and gives me the capacity to do all of my ideas, all of my experiments, take me on all my explorations. Drinking water, is taking care of the whole body. And something I take for granted is just the body that I'm in. And I take for granted potential. I do take potential for granted, and I don't do the most, or I guess I don't make the most of things, just because I think that, like, every bit of potential is always going to be available. And yes, that's true to a degree, but also in another way it's not, like when you are younger and you are able to heal a little bit faster, you take that for granted and you abuse your body more. And then you get older and then you don't have that youth, the cushion of youth. And so you can't abuse your body in the way that you used to, because you don't recover. in the way that you used to. And so it's taking for granted youth, it's taking for granted energy, it's taking for granted that potential that you have, because it comes in different forms. So it's just so easy. But then it's usually when something gets taken, like it's usually when you've taken things for granted and it hasn't been able to sustain itself, that it's no longer available. And then you're like, oh man, I really wish I had drunken more water or stretched more. Something so small as stretching. You don't have to go into yoga, but just stretching. Because I know you were doing that, Jackie. You weren't always doing a yoga session every time you felt like moving your body. Sometimes you were just doing a little stretch, and sometimes it was an hour-long yoga session. And I love that you were doing both.
Yeah, oh my gosh, so much resonated with what you just said. But yeah, quickly with the yoga thing. Um, I recently have not been taking that shit seriously at all, and it's kind of like so liberating. And
Mm-hmm.
you're right, sometimes I do. Like today, I did a full hour-long yoga class, like full, and it was a little more active. We did balancing postures, but sometimes I'm literally in my bed and I put my legs up the wall and that's it.
Yeah, I love
Like,
it. Yep.
or I do like three different poses. I'm in my pajamas, or like even just throughout the day, if I'm walking around the house doing things, I'll just hit a forward fold real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't even have to be that. It could also be just taking a deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
or, just a moment to sit with yourself and notice your thoughts. It doesn't have to be so structured, and there's no right way, is I guess what I'm finding, at least with my relationship to yoga. It's not like I'm trying to be a yogi, perfect yogi. I just I appreciate the tool of moving my body and synchronizing it with my breath. And that's like pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, I love that you brought up taking things for granted, because that's totally what we do when we just continue to do the same things over and over. And this applies in so many different situations. Like you could be like taking your, like you said, youth for granted and like partying a lot, or it could even be like taking your time for granted
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, not changing your behavior that you've been wanting to change for a long period of time because you're uncomfortable, but also like not moving into the discomfort just maintains the discomfort that you're already feeling. So like there's no avoiding it. Either you can take a step forward into a new possibility, like breaking out of your habitual pattern, and
Mm-hmm.
you experience more of life and more growth and more, momentum, and you'll be surprised about like what you can do if you just continually step into discomfort. Forgot where I was going. I don't know how to finish that sentence. But you know what I mean. It's like you're pushing the circle. It's like like in a video game where sometimes you'll have a map and all that's like shown to you on the map is the parts that you've explored.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so like when the more that you travel outside of that, like more of the map is lit up and you can see more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it feels in reality sometimes. Like you have to step out of the bubble of what's comfortable for you or what you know
Mm-hmm.
in order to see more and have access to more perspective. And it's not about like making yourself more, but like if we gotta be here and be alive, like we might as well see the most of it that we can. And there's no pressure because there's an infinite amount of space that you can explore and possibilities to explore. So like nobody's reaching the end of that.
Mm-mm.
It's just I personally am curious and want to see and live my life to the fullest. So I've realized like that comes with doing things that are fucking uncomfortable. And I've started doing more and more of those recently in the past like year or two,
Mm-hmm.
and my life looks completely different now. And it's so cool to look back and see like at one point I thought that like I was like, "Oh my God, how am I going to move out of my parents' house? Like I was uncomfortable. I was like, fuck, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I don't have enough saved. I can just stay here where it's comfortable, or I can do the uncomfortable thing that I know I actually want and move out. And I did it. And I'm like, oh shit, I could do that. And then it's like, okay, maybe I want to maybe I want to see if I can teach yoga. Did my training. That was uncomfortable as shit. Like meeting all these new people. And then I did it. And now I'm teaching. And so, and even, coming onto the DU calls for the first time, that was a huge step for me. And I was nervous just to raise my hand and say one thing or even turn my camera on. And the more times that I did it, it just got easier and easier and easier. And then I'm talking in calls weekly. And then now we have our own segment and we've done like, I don't even know how many episodes, probably over like 20 or 30 by this point, some of which were lost, never to be seen again, or maybe to be seen again, but they had no video. So, or they had no video, I don't think of either of us, or maybe just one. But maybe those will be bonus episodes later. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is like just taking little steps out of your comfort zone consistently. I think that's the key to life. You just have to keep doing that and event and like things will happen. Things will work out.
Mhm.
And it's not about like making an idea in your mind about where you want to go and then trying to work towards that necessarily. I mean, to some extent, planning and looking a little bit into the future is necessary, but like my plan for my future a year ago was not this, but I'm so happy I'm here, right? And I can see how things are growing. And I don't know, the last couple months, I felt like I've kind of been in this state of introspection and sort of like looking around and being like, okay, what now? And like building up the courage and the energy to take my next step. I think I kind of, I was resting in the winter and I wanted to sleep a lot and like hang out with friends and maybe not have to push myself all the time. But now I'm feeling like I'm ready to start taking steps and I want to start doing more. And I actually I don't know if I should talk about this just yet because we haven't. Oh well, fuck it. I'm gonna start doing yoga classes on Zoom for Patreon members, like tiers 2 and 3. So like I don't know if I'm gonna do it bi-weekly or monthly at this point, but like
Most
I
likely
want to start.
say once a month to start, and we might increase it later, but at least I
Yeah.
think that's a good base. It's just once a month to start,
Mhm.
and then we'll share any updates soon.
Yeah. So that's gonna be starting soon. Because I've been getting too comfortable and I'm ready to make myself uncomfortable again. So yeah.
And you're curious, you want to explore more, it's when you were talking about stepping out of our comfort zone, I was the thought that came to mind was I wonder if it's that I'm stepping out of this comfort zone because it feels like, quote unquote, I'm in my comfort zone right now. And then it seems like reality and my life and my experience, suddenly my comfort zone is gone and I panic. And so then I rush to jump back into my comfort zone because it feels like the discomforts come to visit regardless. Right. So it almost feels like I don't necessarily have to jump out of my comfort zone. It's almost like I don't feel like looking for it again when something uncomfortable arises because it's inevitable. It's so it's like it doesn't feel like I actually have to jump out of the comforts. It feels like all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, what happened? The comforts are gone. So it doesn't feel like I ever have to make an effort to jump out of the comfort zone. It just feels like, maybe the effort is to not run back to that comfort zone when something bubbles up to the surface that makes me feel uncomfortable because it doesn't feel like I really have to search for discomforts. It seems like they find me a little too easily, you know.
That's a great point though, because uncertainty is just gonna happen. And pretty much our comfort zone isn't, it's nothing solid. It's not actually like keeping you safe at all. And yeah, it's just feeling comfort, which is just what you already know, versus discomfort, which is just what you don't know yet. And when you think about it like that, it's like, okay, it's not like the unknown, you
Ooh.
know? Ooh, spooky. Like, I don't know. It doesn't have to be such a scary thing to do something that's unfamiliar or uncomfortable, because literally your whole life you've been in uncertainty. You've been in and you've been doing fine. So it's just doing what you've been doing up until this point. I don't know why it's so daunting. Like every single thing that's new, I'm like, I doubt myself and my ability to survive it. Like I feel like it's gonna be the end of the world if I fuck up, and then people are gonna judge me, and like I don't know. And it's probably just because I don't think it through fully. Like that thought comes up and then I'm just like, oh, that's uncomfortable. Let me avoid it. When if you just sit there and look at the discomfort, you're like, okay, well, what could actually go wrong? And you don't know. I mean, literally it could be anything, but most of the time it's not nearly as bad as I think it's going to be. Or I'm a lot more capable than I think. And I surprise myself constantly with that.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Life is full of surprises because we are full of surprises, and I love that, but you won't see the surprise if you keep focusing on your fears. You know, Ray put it, he was in the comments today of the High and Empowered podcast that was live at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And in the comments, he was like, it's hard to move forward despite your fears if you keep looking back at them. And and I loved that because it reminded me that, I can always move forward despite my fear, but it's really hard to move forward knowing that the fear is there. If I zoom in on that fear, I zoom in so much that I can't take a step forward because I'm all my energy is being directed towards zooming in on the fear and being paralyzed by it. you know um I saw a meme the other day that it was like phobophobia or something like that. And it's like the fear of having fears. And the meme was like first a picture of this guy like in a bathroom stall. It looked like fighting off something like with like he had like a pot in his hand, like a pan, like as his defense. And he's like, and it just says like feared. And then like in the picture right underneath it, it's the same guy in the same stall, but it's like his eyes have gone big. It's like feared, like, or feared even more, or something like that. And I laughed because it was just like just being scared of being scared seems so ridiculous when you say it out loud, but that's what we do. And another, I was chatting with a friend a few months ago, and the topic of like psychosis had come up. And I certainly don't know everything about psychosis, but I certainly I had thought of how sometimes you can tell yourself a story and be truly terrified by it, and you put yourself in this state of like extreme panic and extreme just 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 absolutely rattled to the bone. And the only thing you did was tell yourself this story. You believed this assumption. You believed it so much that you paralyzed yourself. Like you legitimately paralyzed yourself for one moment of your own life. And that just showed me like how powerful our words are to ourselves in those stories, and how it's so easy to want to believe that there's no hope or that there's no potential for change when you're so zoomed in on the fear you keep repeating to yourself. And so another thing that I think we take for granted is our ability to change, our ability to adapt, our ability to pivot. I always love when I was growing up, I used to love hearing pretty much the narrative that I remember was that the human spirit is indomitable. The human spirit is strong. The human spirit is so like powerful. And now the narrative that I get is just that, people feel absolutely helpless and paralyzed. And I wonder how much of that just comes from the stories that we tell ourselves, because I was listening to the LinkedIn live show or the High and Empowered podcast, and they were, the topic of the environment and how much the environment influences you and how much you influence the environment. And they were talking about creativity and what stifles creativity, and I mentioned in the comments fear, that a lot of the times the biggest barrier to our creativity is ourselves. It's our fear. It's our fear of judgment. It's our fear of failure. It's not having enough faith in ourselves to take a risk, to do something creative just for the sake of doing it without imagining how it could be interpreted, what it means about us, where it's going to take us, and that was not that comment was kind of like, yeah, but it's a little bit of fear, but it's also your work environment. It's also your environment that stifles your creativity. And I was just like, yeah, that is also true. Your environment does influence you, but not more than you influence it. So as much as I want to talk about how, yes, the system is fucked and there are so many barriers around us, I can't eliminate all the barriers around me right now. But what I can do is not be a barrier to myself right now. And I can do that. And that is a potential that I think gets taken for granted so often by myself and so often by so many people, that you don't even try because you're so afraid to fail. And how is that not the greatest barrier to any option that you want to take, regardless? Like, yes, the external is a huge thing, but so are you are a huge barrier, or you are a huge bridge between you and where your curiosities may take you.
That definitely resonates, and it feels like you're talking about me. And it's because we go through these same sort of struggles in our mind. I get in my way constantly, and I'm letting myself express more now. And it's literally just not telling myself I can't for a second. Like I'll be thinking about I can't up until I do it. Right? And then I do it, and then I come up with something else that I can't do. But it's really just the next step, the next best step that you can do. And yeah, it does feel like a lot of people today, I mean, both of us included, just kind of are more likely to play the victim rather than not let anything stop them. It's really the people that succeed are just the people that are willing to try and like keep it going, even if they make a quote unquote mistake or they fail. They're like, okay, well, let me just do something else. And you know, there's no arriving at success per se, but even just the process of doing that over and over in life is fulfilling in its own sense. I mean, I can't speak on that being 23. Like, but even in the things that I have
Yeah.
experienced, right? Like I might not have as many experiences with trying and
Yeah, but
failing.
let's talk about success. How
Mhm.
would you define success? Because I don't think that it is, in terms of like the traditional definition, yeah, you're just beginning your quote unquote career, your life experiences. But I think success is more than just what looks good on paper. How would you define
Exactly.
success?
That's an interesting question. I would say success is just living your life in a way that feels authentic. And that's really it. Like there's no wow. Yeah, like the material possessions don't really matter. Like I just want enough to live, and I just want to enjoy the things that I do on a daily basis. And not that I'll always feel good doing them or that I'll always love doing them, but just that if I can appreciate the process and just living my life, living my day, if I it's not, it doesn't exist. It's nothing. And we're all fixated on it. Like it doesn't look one specific way. And it's funny that we're all trying to like achieve the same things of like the most expensive cars, the most beautiful, huge house in a beautiful city, right? And or like the perfect partner, the like this is societal blueprint stuff that we all are kind of just like mindlessly chasing after when we don't even stop and think about if it's actually what we want. And even in my job right now, it is definitely not glamorous. Like I'm in a restaurant and it's it's a job, but there's a lot of things that I appreciate about it. Like I'm not getting paid very much. I'm getting paid enough to live, and I have a lot of friends there, and the food is really good. And like we were saying, I was telling Amanda earlier that yesterday when I went to work, I hope my boss isn't listening to this. I was just drinking all of the like juices that we had, like the agua frescas. I for some reason I don't really I'll have like one usually a shift, but I was like pounding those things and I was mixing them, like the watermelon with the pineapple and trying that. Or like the craziest one I did was the horchata with the passion fruit agua fresca, and it tasted like a creamsicle. But like there's all these little things to appreciate, even at a job that like I could very easily. And honestly, oftentimes I'm like, I fucking hate this job. Get me out of here. Like, everyone here is stupid. Like, why do people keep asking me dumb questions and making me work? Right? Like, sometimes I think about my job like that, or like, even doing this stuff with DU, like, it's like I never am satiated or satisfied with what I'm doing, because it doesn't match my definition of a good job, or like I don't know what I always thought a successful job or career would be, or life. And it doesn't match that image, but still there's so much here to appreciate, and I just feel successful in the fact that I've allowed myself to create a life that's authentic to me, right? And that I've allowed myself to see the good in any situation. And so I'm confident that like anywhere I go, I would experience probably the same amount of happiness, right? Like I love that statistic that's like happiness doesn't increase past like a certain threshold of income, right? It's like literally just enough to live on. And then happiness doesn't increase after that. And it's like delay feeling like we feel like we delay gratification, or like we don't allow ourselves to feel happy and at peace and content and grateful until we've reached the next checkpoint. And that checkpoint keeps changing. So it's not about the checkpoint. It's not about any one job. It's not about literally any external situation. It's about your internal situation. And like, yeah, I guess just being able to let go of my fear a little bit more, and embrace uncertainty. And I think that just comes with relaxing. And just I want to feel just relaxed and at ease in my life, and do things that feel authentic and not stifle myself. That's my definition of success, I think.
Oh, I love that. It's being being relaxed enough to make the most of your life. Um, not not freaking out about things not always going the way that you expect. You talked about working at a restaurant and how sometimes you're like, man, somebody help, help. As you're writing SOS and ketchup packets on the counter, someone help. But if that was a family restaurant or a group of friends started that restaurant, and you were, in the kitchen whipping up delicious meals and cracking jokes with your coworkers and partners, that restaurant job would feel a lot more glamorous. It would it And I love the, trying out new things. Really, that was research for suggestions you could make towards adventurous customers who might like to mix flavors for the agua frescas. And so I think that was just customer service experience research. That's really what that was. You were still working on the clock. That's how I'll spin that. But definitely any job can feel glamorous, and any job can feel like the worst job in the world, because there is someone out there who is, my dad used to be a garbage man, and he used to love that job. To someone else, they would hate picking up the garbage, but he got paid really well. It was a city job. He had great benefits. He also got to pick things off of the street and had first dibs. So he was constantly buying, or not buying, but like picking up and fixing things up and then selling it or giving it to me. That's how I got my Barbie convertible pink car that ran on a big giant battery. And it was so funny because my brother is like 7 years older than me, and I definitely have quite a few memories where he would ride that little convertible till it was dead, and then I got to roll it down the hill with just riding on gravity only. Definitely a few memories like that, but still, like, those moments wouldn't have happened if he wasn't, if he didn't make the most of being a garbage man. Right. And there are probably definitely a few jobs where, like, no matter how hard you try, it's going to feel pretty miserable because of what you're doing. If you're dealing with like sewage or something like that, like, I don't know how you spend that one, but you never know. Someone could love working at a sewage plant. Someone could love working at a compost place, and you're just smelling things decomposing around you, and they're like, this is great. So like any job has the potential for you to make the most of it. Right. It's not that you have to be dancing on clouds for every moment of every job, but you can absolutely make the most of things. And a lot of the times that, a job doesn't feel glamorous. I work in health insurance, and one of our directors had said, like, I know we don't work in a sexy industry. And I wanted to laugh in that meeting because it was just like, why does a business have to be sexy? Why? But it's like, it's sexy if it's like flashy, if it's impressive in the societal structure that we have, if it meets the expectations of what's cool and what's not cool. So now we have businesses that are glamorous, jobs that are sexy, jobs that are not so glamorous, and it's just like, it doesn't even need to be that, because every job is going to give you a moment where you're going to be like, I could walk away from this and not lose any sleep. And I mean that about every job. As much as I'm skeptical that any job could feel great if we're talking about certain professions, but I do think that every job has a universally shared factor, or a universally shared experience, that at least at one point working every job, you'd want to quit it. At least once you'd want to quit it, or you'd want to get a different job doing something else. And everybody goes through that. And I don't care if you are a chef in a 5-star or a Michelin starred restaurant, or if you are a painter who loved painting since you could write your name. You had a painting brush in your hand, and you were painting since you were a little. At some point, something that you like is going to be something that annoys you. So I feel like it's just it doesn't need to be glamorous or not glamorous. Is that you're gonna like it, and sometimes you're not gonna like it. And I think that we have this expectation that everything is supposed to feel pleasant, and that everything is supposed to be impressive to you and to everyone else. And so our idea of success, usually the way that I feel I've received the message externally, is just that success has to be a round of applause. If you don't get a round of applause for the job that you're doing or for the life that you're living, it's not good enough. And it's like, if I was living in a cabin by myself, in a mountain away from everybody, I could still make that into the most meaningful life. And all that's there is me. And I would never get a round of applause. And yet I still feel like that could feel just as meaningful as having a life that is a lot more public, that, that might get you, someone looking up to you. And anytime I feel that way, that somebody's looking up to me, I immediately put myself on the ground next to them. I'm like, there's nothing that I'm doing that you couldn't do. There's nothing that I've learned that you couldn't learn. There's nothing that I did that is unique to me that hasn't been done a gajillion zillion times before. Anything that I'm doing has been done countless times. I'm not the first and I don't want to be the first, but I want to make the most of it. And that doesn't mean that I will always like it. Sometimes it's going to annoy me. Sometimes I'm going to be excited for it, but I'm here for all of it. And so I love your definition of success being, just being relaxed enough that you live a life that you want to live, that if no one else was looking, you would still live it that way. And if everybody was looking, you would still live it that way because you lived it for you. And so that's what a successful life means to me, is that you lived it for you, regardless of everyone else's opinion and regardless of your own.
Fucking beautifully said. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Success is just living for yourself. And it can be something as small as like posting what you want on social media, or, just taking those little steps, like we were talking about, of just out of your comfort zone and towards like your authentic self, like allowing the idea of yourself to come crumbling down and breaking out of the prison that like you hold yourself in. And you've always been bigger than that. Like you've always been infinite and at the same time not unique in the slightest. Isn't that so interesting? Like we really are so insignificant. So we could be anything. Right? So we can free ourselves from the shackles of our own self-judgment and charge on into uncertainty and just see what the fuck happens. And it's so fun just to continue to exist. And I remember like really feeling like this lightness and just like appreciation for life. And I felt like so just complete after I came back from the the first D retreat that I went to in Vermont. Like it really brought me back to reality and paying attention to like what actually matters, and literally just this moment in and of itself is so full and it's enough. I remember like feeling for the first time in my life that like if I died today, that would have been enough, right? I, sometimes I got lost in the sauce, but overall, I appreciated everything that I went through, and like it's enough, right? Like I don't need to keep striving for more. But yeah, like I can just take each moment for what it is, each situation as it comes, and make the most out of it just by like being there for it, paying attention to it, and not immediately telling myself it's not right or not good enough. Because the only times I really feel dissatisfied or like I hate my job or I hate my life or I feel like I'm a failure is when I'm thinking about myself. It's always thinking about the idea of myself. And if the job that I'm currently working doesn't match up with what I think I deserve or like where I should be, I feel dissatisfied because it's literally just because of the gap between what I'm thinking my life should be and what it is. Like my life is just what it is. And that's okay. Like I don't have to have this grand career where I'm like jet setting across the world and writing books and performing in front of millions of people and like leading a cultural renaissance. Because at the end of the day, like one day the sun is going to explode and the earth will be gone. Humanity will be wiped out. And it doesn't matter if you lived just like a simple life in the woods on your own, or you were like the most famous person in the world. Like it, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's just about how do you feel. And a lot of people who are at the tip top of what is deemed by society as successful are not fucking happy. And actually having all that shit just gives you more shit to think about. And then you have to like maintain this identity as of, you have to like keep outdoing yourself. And there's just a lot, like it's not what everyone thinks it is. It's not all it's cut out to be. And I think a lot of people do realize that. Isn't that Jim Carrey who said, like, I wish everybody could achieve their wildest dreams to know like that's not it. It's not the answer. Yeah, so that just goes to show that like what we're all collectively striving for is sort of missing the mark. We all just want to be content, I think, deep down. And we've convinced ourselves that we do that by, the amount of money that we have or our career, the amount of influence that we have. But really, we do that by letting go of all of those things. And so you can have nothing and still feel like you're the richest person in the world because you are appreciating every single moment rather than taking them for granted.
I love that you said that. That reminds me of the saying or the quote, or it's like, who's the richest person in the world? The person who has everything or the person who wants nothing? And I love that. I love that. That was giving me that energy all day. So I do think that it's the person who wants nothing is the person who is richer. And so that changes the conversation about success and wealth and riches from being externally based to being intrinsically based. Like, you are the greatest treasure, you are the point, you are the purpose, you are, the journey. So often we're like, I'm on a path. I'm like, no, you are that path, because you are living that path from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. So it's not that you're on it. You are it. You are the journey. You are the process. You are the life. And so often we think, I'm not living the best life. And what we're saying is that I'm not the best. It's not that my life is not the best, is that I'm not the best. And we think that, life has to be this competition because we're always comparing ourselves to everything and everyone. It's I have met and chatted with people that I looked up to, and they were very successful on paper, and they were stressed. They were not as relaxed and carefree as I thought. And yet I saw people that were living in quote unquote poverty, and they were laughing much more easily. And of course, it's not to say that every group is like this. It's just that from the people that I got to see firsthand, the people that I got to talk to up close, one-on-one, a lot of times in my personal life, I saw more examples of people who quote unquote didn't look good on paper, but had a life that they so much that they enjoyed, versus the people that I got to meet that looked great on paper, but they were way more stressed. And they had different stresses, because the richer people that I met were stressed about what they could lose, and the poorer people that I met felt richer because they made the most from what they had. And yes, they had dreams and wants and desires to have more, but there wasn't a fear of losing what you didn't have. So they were technically they had an advantage. And I didn't get to see that until I started talking to more people. And so that's why I encourage everyone, like, get out there and talk to people from all walks of life, and all, talk to some old biddies, talk to some old, ladies and gentlemen, and talk to some young gremlins. That's what I call kids, little gremlins, because, the gremlins are cute before midnight, before, if you don't feed them, but then after that, they get scaly and scary, So I call kids gremlins to their face. I was like, are you the cute gremlin or the scaly one? And they're like, I'm not a gremlin. I'm like, yes, you are. I just love Just I'm giving them guff. Because it's like if you can't laugh at yourself, you're taking yourself too seriously. And I don't care what group you fall into. I don't care what age you are. I don't care how you identify. If you can't laugh at the idea of you, if you can't laugh at how you tend to overreact and how you take things for granted and how you get caught up and lost in the sauce, if you can't laugh at yourself for doing that, you're taking yourself way too seriously. And that is not a successful life that I want to replicate, because I have to live it. And the life that I'm living, the life that I am, I want it to feel more like a dance and not like a march, like I'm a soldier, marching to the next post to defend it and to die on that hill. No, man, I want to dance from here to there and nowhere and dance with no music. I want to dance because I am the music. It's just, and I get to have opportunities to do that when I don't take myself seriously. And when I do, that's okay because that deepens my appreciation for when I'm not doing that. When I'm not taking myself too seriously, that I'm learning how to appreciate that more and more. And I love that I'm just learning, and we all are, but we constantly feel like learning requires a test. And I don't think so. I feel like you can learn, test not required.
Agreed. And that's all that life is, just learning, experiencing new things, and evolving as you go. That's it. And I like that you brought up dancing instead of marching, because the image I saw in my head, like a bunch of people marching, and like there's like a very specific form that they're trying to do, and everyone's looking around being like, oh, well, he's not doing it right. And like having a stick up their ass versus like me over there like twirling around with my hair loose, like wearing a colorful skirt and like doing cartwheels and shit in the grass and talking to the animals and the woodland
Back
creatures.
in line, Jackie.
And I'm like, fuck you, bitches. And I'm just out there being free, right? And that's like my full authentic self, is just willing to be different and be exactly what you are. And all of us are incredibly unique. Like that's the beautiful thing about genetic variation and evolution in general. It's like in order for evolution to happen, we all have to be different variations of what a human or a being could possibly be, because really there's no distinction between humans and animals. And like all of us as conscious beings, in and even in the things that we don't perceive as conscious, like nature and rocks and fucking the empty space around here, like all of it is constantly evolving and changing. And so it's almost absurd that we try and be so similar, or like, yeah, force ourselves into this one mold, because
Control. We want control.
we want control, because that'll make me more money, and then I'd be happy. But that, like, you fool, you think that's gonna make you happy? And so you you can just laugh at yourself when you have a stick up your ass, or laugh at all the people who are in power that have a stick up their ass. You don't have to take anything that anyone else says seriously. And that's like the most liberating thing ever, because then somebody can judge you straight to your face. And if you're not willing to give your power away, they can't take it from you. Like you could just be like, and if you're not using the idea of yourself to make yourself feel better, so like if you're relying on it for that, if somebody makes fun of you, it's gonna hurt because you're attached to it. But like if you can take your identity so much less seriously, and you're like, oh, I already know that's not me. Like when somebody tears you down, it's like, who are you tearing down? I don't know her. Like, you seem to be bothered though. Maybe you should look at that. And it's kind of a win-win situation, because you're not impacted by it, and you can like go on with your life and continue to do the things and express yourself and live your best life. And that other person, like them seeing you not react is like, okay, I want what they have. Or like, what is that? Right? And it's literally just not having to believe in anything, not having to hold on to anything and being cool with uncertainty. And not saying that's, you know, a comfortable process, right? Of letting go of all that shit, but it's so fucking worth it at any point in the process. Like even just the tiniest bit, taking yourself a little bit less seriously alleviates some of that weight that we just put on ourselves when none of it's necessary. Like we're going to keep continue living and existing and doing things whether we're putting pressure on ourselves or not. Because, you know, sometimes it feels heavy and sometimes it feels light, but you carry on nonetheless. So it's your choice. You want to make it harder for yourself? You don't have to, but it's funny when I do.
Oh my goodness, it is. It is. It's funny when I see it that I'm taking myself seriously. Like the best a recent example was I'm driving on the highway and I'm driving in the middle lane. It's a 3-lane highway and I'm driving in the middle lane and somebody guns it out of the grandma lane into the faster express lane to the left and they almost clipped my car and I'm like, well, damn you, you asshole, you know, and I definitely got upset and then I was like, oh, but I'm that asshole sometimes, you know. I oh, be safe out there, you know, like I
Oh
got
yeah. Like let me sit down. Let me not let me not act like I'm the best driver in the
I was like,
world.
oh, Mr. Kettle, my bad. I didn't mean to call you black. I'm black. Shit, my bad, man. My bad. I forgot. I was just looking, I was zooming in on you. I forgot. I'm a pot over here. I'm also a pot. I'm a black pot, a black kettle, you know? And so I laughed. I went from being like furious for a second and then I laughed. I was like, oh man, you do that too though when you're in a rush, you're panicking because you think it means something about you that you're late or it means something about you that you're not where you want to quote unquote be, and you're taking yourself too seriously and you're getting caught up and you're putting yourself at greater risk of dealing with more things that you don't want to deal with right now. So you know, driving faster, what's it going to do, shave off like 2 minutes? Like if you're late, you are late. The best thing you can do is call and just say, "Hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late. My estimated arrival time is X, Y, and Z. You know, I'm going to get there safely and as soon as I can." You know, but it's that we don't want to make that call. You know, we don't want to quote unquote look bad. You know, we want to be this nice person. We want to be this good person. And I'm like, man, I barely feel like a person sometimes. I feel like I feel like a loony bin. You know, I feel like I should be in the loony bin. Where's my straitjacket? Can I bedazzle it? Like, what's going on here? Because it just feels like I don't always feel quote unquote like a person because it feels like I'm the whole experience, right? So, as much as it feels like I'm a human, I'm like, debatable. But and then I'm like, oh, now I'm a good human. I'm a good person. I'm like, catch me on the quote unquote wrong day and you will not meet quote unquote good person Amanda. You will meet annoyed Amanda. You will meet pissed off. And it's like, it's just because all of those things are on the table all the time. But it's very easy for us to get caught up in the idea versus being the experience, being the source of that experience. And so as much as, you know, there are external barriers that are presented, how you respond to them is always up to you. And if you want to try to throw grenades everywhere you go, good luck. See how far that takes you because, you know, one approach from one direction doesn't really make sense. It's like we adapt, we pivot, we learn, we change, you know? So it's like I am going to show up and I'm going to keep going. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I don't need to know what I think it'll look like because that's an expectation, that's an assumption. And that's also not what's going to happen. So it's so funny that we rely so much on our assumptions, our expectations, our identities, and that's not a fact. That's an assumption. And yet we treat it like it's this tool of certainty. And so but I usually take those things a little too seriously when I just take myself too seriously. And it always just circles back to what am I holding on to? You know, what do I think needs to be different in this moment? And I had started, I had wrote a poem the other night, and I want to read it to you. And it was about like how we're always starting over. But I didn't like that when I started writing this poem. So here, here it goes. Start again. How can I start again when I don't like this end? I want my preferences. I want my comforts, because starting again means letting go of what should have been. And that's the poem that I came up with, about how even though we always start over in every single moment, sometimes you really don't want to start over, because you'd rather your preference over the potential of what's here.
That's beautiful, Amanda. And I love that you're writing poetry and that you felt comfortable to share it. Fuck yes. But that's relatable. I I feel like I have to drag myself forward sometimes. And that voice that's like, "Ah, I really gotta start. Like, I gotta do this again. Like, oh, like I just want to stay in my nice cozy bed, right? And like have my mom cook me food, right? We all have that desire in us for comfort and safety, and that's coming from like the idea of ourselves, like the part of me that's Jackie, like the ego, you could say. But it's like we have this almost parent-child relationship with ourselves, or like I really, really hesitate to say like our higher self, because higher self has become sort of connotated with like an egotistical, like best version. But to me, I think higher self is just like a larger perspective. It's just more zoomed out. And that's the part of me that recognizes that whether I want to start over or not, I'm already started over. Like I don't have a choice. Like literally every single moment I'm starting over. And it's just infinite until I die. Like it's just gonna keep happening. And then I'll continue on as everyone else. Like there's no stopping it. And yeah, so you can almost comfort yourself through that in those times where you feel like I really don't want to keep going. And that's when we can develop a really negative view of our life if we listen to that voice and we think it's telling us the truth, like spewing fear and doubt and insecurity. That's just the small, limited perspective that we tend to be most familiar with. But it's no measure of objective reality or truth. And actually, uncertainty is okay. Like, we can just have an acceptance of it. And then, even though it might not feel pleasant and we don't want to start over or, keep going sometimes, we do. And we can. And that's enough. Like, just knowing that you're going to and you can. And so, and it doesn't really matter how you feel at any given point because you're going to experience all of it. So you can accept all of it and not hold on to any of it and know that it's going to change, but that you'll be okay because you'll be you. And it is true that we kind of have like an indomitable spirit. Like we're going to keep going and adjusting to our environment, to what's going on forever. And the environment will adapt to us too. And fear doesn't really need to be involved for that process to keep happening. It actually like impedes that process, but it doesn't stop it.
No, it doesn't. So we can't stop the unfolding of existence, no matter how hard we try to delay it. And it's like we don't delay it because change always happens right now. So I think we do a lot of copying and pasting really fast. And so it seems like change doesn't happen because we keep repeating old thoughts, old patterns, old structures, and we keep repeating those things for so many now moments that it feels like change takes forever. And change doesn't have to. It doesn't have to take forever because it only happens like right now. And so I love thinking of some of my friends who have decided cold turkey to stop smoking cigarettes or to stop doing something, whether it was like not eating processed desserts anymore, or not smoking cigarettes, or not drinking coffee, or not drinking sodas, or whatever it was. Like some of them were just like, that's it, enough is enough, like I'm changing right now. And it was because they shifted their priorities. And it doesn't always look that way for everyone, but I just love thinking of their examples because it lets me know that, oh, that is a possibility. It is not a requirement, but it's just another possibility. And so I love that, like when you relax enough in this present moment, you open yourself up to the flow of life, to being that flow, and to being open to all of the possibilities that are on the table, and then just taking that leap without certainty, but with self faith, self trust in yourself, that no matter what happens, you will adapt, you will pivot, you will dance, you will, like you will figure it out. You will walk, you will run, you will jump, you will leap. Like, like no matter what happens, like there is always an opportunity for you to move forward. And so I definitely think it's wonderful when we can remind ourselves and everyone else of that. Like, just keep going. Like, regardless, doesn't matter what you think, keep going. Because when you think you're on the quote unquote best path or the worst path, oh no, what am I doing? Sometimes that leads to an opportunity you never expected. And sometimes being on that best path leads to a dead end in a way that you didn't realize. So it's like, no matter what you think, just keep going and find out and just see what happens.
And it's never too late to start making change and living for yourself. Like just because you've gone this far, stifling yourself, limiting yourself, judging yourself. Like you said, change can happen right now, instantaneously. And I know because I've made changes like that before. I remember when I went vegan, it was overnight. And I was like, wow, I can really just do that. And then now I'm eating everything again. That's a different conversation. But I thought that was just a beautiful summary of the conversation that we've had, right? It's just giving yourself a little bit more grace, taking yourself less seriously, and that allows you to get the most out of any situation. And that's how you live a successful life. It's just so stop chasing success through the idea of yourself, because that's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to put you on a eternal treadmill of striving that never ends, when when you could also just sit down and take a deep breath and take in the scenery and do things for the sake, talk to people without needing anything from them, make art because you randomly wanted to, like allow yourself to dance in the supermarket. And most of all, just know that life goes on and there's no wrong way to do it. So the choice is whether you want to make it easy and enjoyable or hard and painful. And the only difference is taking your thoughts a little bit less seriously and your idea of yourself a little less seriously, because we don't really know. We really don't know jack shit. So nice to be humbled also constantly in life with that. But when you can laugh at yourself, it just adds to the drama. Like, wow, I love this season. Wow, so much happened. But I think this is a great place to wrap up the conversation. This has been an amazing episode. A lot of things clicked for me, and it's funny how many things that you said that came up in the conversation I had with Andrew earlier. It's all like interconnected. But I can't wait for you guys to see that episode and this one, and looking forward to so many episodes to come, because why not? We have eternity, so we might as well chat. But I love you guys, and thank you.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us. And this was jam packed with just exploration and curiosities and a lightness. Also, thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you so much, everyone. I love this. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Take care.